So I was born and raised in Dallas. I went to the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina for my undergrad. And then I went to St. Mary's University School of Law for my graduate degree. And I wasn't a very good lawyer. I didn't do it for very long. So I'm a mom, and I laughingly call myself the Beale family CEO. So I've always had a passion for history, um, and especially historical architecture. My favorite book when I was a kid was The Little House by Virginia Lee Burton. And I grew up in a really cool old house with a creepy third floor, a rooftop view of downtown overlooking Dallas Country Club, a Olympic size swimming pool in the backyard with an antique diving board. It was just a great place to grow up, and it had all those weird nooks and crannies that my friends' houses didn't have. I also credit my grandparents for instilling in me an interest in historic preservation and architectural history. They retired to a small tidewater town on the eastern shore of Maryland. It was just a halcyon town with white picket fences, beautiful architecture, and really well preserved. So we would use our opportunities in the summer visiting them to take day trips to Winter Tour or Washington, D.C. or Philadelphia or Williamsburg. So I went to Williamsburg as a kid a lot more than I ever went to Disney World. And I'm okay with that. I think Cynthia Beard said this, and I am a person after her own heart, where she has never met an old house that she hasn't wanted to kind of throw her arms around. And I feel the same way. Even as a kid, I would sort of have this longing for a house that I felt like was dilapidated or not well cared for. So when you have a heart for that, it breaks your heart to lose them because you know they're irreplaceable. Hal Thompson is not going to design another house. So when we lose it, it is lost for good. And if you have a passion about history and historic preservation in your community, it does lead you to advocacy because you know that once it's gone, you're not getting it back. I don't like drama. I don't like making a fuss over things. I like things to be simple and straightforward and direct. But sometimes when you're in the role that I'm in, your neighbors and your community count on you to help them when they're facing a situation like, for example, the 4400 block of Fairfax. They were understandably concerned about an impending demolition of an existing 1920s home with a speculative home. And this is concerning for people in our neighborhood because those speculative homes stand out. They typically are not built with the same scale. Often they're built quickly. Maybe the quality of construction is not as good. And this particular block was very harmonious in terms of its architecture, landscaping, and to our knowledge, really no one has ever protested in such a way that they did. And as a board, we really thought hard about whether participating with them was staying true to our mission of celebration. And we had landmarked that home, and we felt like it was important for us to go and stand in solidarity with our friends and neighbors over on Fairfax, just to draw attention to the fact that our community is changing by people who have a pecuniary interest only. And our tight-knit community and neighborhood that shares common values, like education, traditions, our cultural traditions and aesthetics, we bristle a little bit when that happens, when it's only a pecuniary investment and not a desire to become a part of our community. At the end of the day, the house was not saved. But I do think that it gave speculative builders pause, maybe hesitation, when they are looking for a home to demolish. For so long, people said nothing, did nothing. Maybe they were upset, but this was the first demonstrative event we had seen where people really came together as a neighborhood and as a community to say that this is not something that represented their values. One of the benefits that came out of what was kind of a sad situation and a hard time was that the town of Highland Park City Council were aware that there were some rumblings. That provided an opportunity for us to reach out to them and to collaborate with them because they recognized this was a community problem. It was not about Preservation Park Cities. It was something that they found the residents in their community were disconcerted that this was happening. When we were involved with the issue on Fairfax, we gained members. We also lost some members. So people have different ideas about the organization that they're a part of and what their role is. And so sometimes we make tough decisions knowing that not all of our members will be in support of us, but we try 100% of the time to be true to our mission statement and our core values and let that guide our decisions. And it may not be everyone's cup of tea all the time. To celebrate and promote the Park City's architecture, history, and cultural traditions. And we also want to be relevant. We want to be visible. We want to celebrate along with our community. For instance, UP is having their centennial in April, and we are delighted to partner with them and promote 100 years as an incorporated city, which is an important milestone. So at Preservation Park Cities, we have two different kinds of events. We have events that are open to the public, and we have events that are for members only. We're really excited about the events that we have with our community members, and those are annually the Distinguished Speakers Luncheon, the Antique and Classic Car Show, and the Historic Home Tour. Now, for members only, we offer education meetings, which are free of charge, and we have fabulous speakers. Those are often in some of the lovely homes in our neighborhood of members who have opened their homes to our group. We also have had them at the Crow Library, which is always a fun and exciting venue. And we have a new member kickoff party, which helps new members find their place in the organization and see where they might want to plug in and serve. And we also have an annual holiday party. At our events that are open to the public, we generate awareness and interest in Preservation Park Cities. And we typically have a flood of new members join after some of these fun events. And then once they're in, they get to do the members only events, which they really enjoy. And it is a wonderful community of like-minded people. We have all different age ranges. We have a junior membership, and then we have a senior membership and everything in between. So our members have a lot of fun, but we also love talking about history. We love architecture. We read the same books. It's just a great, we have a great rapport and camaraderie, even though we're diverse in many other ways. I guess the first thing I would want to say is the demolition of architecturally significant homes is not an us and them problem. It's a we problem. So we're approaching this as a collaboration, and we're approaching this as a resource that we have to give to the town council. In addition to the town council, we need to educate our neighbors in our community so they know what is important and why we are advocating to help save some of our architectural treasures. We can't expect their support if we don't educate them. So we are currently involved in exhaustive research to see what goes on in other cities and towns in Texas that are similar to ours. For instance, in Alamo Heights, they have a demolition delay ordinance, which we think is a great idea. The city of Dallas actually has that as well for some historic designated areas. They also have an architectural review board. And before any demolition permit is issued, the architectural review board reviews the building plans and the architectural plans of what's going to replace the structure that's demolished. In Houston, homeowners can apply for a landmark which protects their home. They also have tax abatement strategies as well. So nothing is off of the table. We look forward to presenting all of this research to the town council and entering into a dialogue to them to see what might stick. We are not anti individual property rights. We support that, and we understand that we need to work within all of the guidelines of the legislative process, as well as the values of our town and the city of University Park as well. So we will make our way to UP. Right now, we're letting them celebrate their 100th birthday, and our engagement currently is with the town of Highland Park. We are recommending that the town create a historic register of existing structures. Right now, there's no list other than our creation of the top 100 list and the wonderful book, Great American Suburbs. We really don't have a great catalog of or documentation of what we have. So we would like to create a register. And if the city or town does not want us to do it, we're happy to provide them with the resources as a good starting point so that we know what we have. An ideal member of our organization is someone who is excited to attend the fun events, but also showing up when the hard days come, showing up when neighbors ask us to help them out. We love being a resource also for realtors and architects. We love it when they reach out to us and share with us a listing. We love to put that on social media and to circulate it. We love to field questions about referrals for architects, designers, many of whom are on our board and are very involved in the industry, as well as realtors. We know the realtors that will go in and try and save a house, and we refer our neighbors and friends to them in hopes that the house will have a different prospect than if they were to just trust it to any agent who's not really historically minded or who don't have that education and experience in older homes. If you fall in love with an old house, just be prepared for some excitement along the way. Anecdotally, I live in a 101-year-old home. We purchased it from a family who lovingly lived there for 45 years. And Don and Marianne Edney are the couple's name, and Don was an engineer. So occasionally we would find some electrical work that was Don-engineered. And it worked. It was fine. And when we moved in, we decided we were going to live there as is for 5 years. And it had not been updated since the 70s. But it was right down the street from Armstrong Elementary, and I could walk my kids right out the door and down the street to school. And I still have a fourth grader at Armstrong 11 years later. After 5 years, we needed some major work. And so we moved out for 18 months. We opened up walls, we expanded the kitchen, we updated the bathrooms, and it was a labor of love. It was not always easy, but we loved our house and we saw its potential. I mean, even the real estate appraiser who came in was like, "You kids are crazy. This is a teardown." And then he walked back in 18 months later and he was like, "Did you raise the ceilings in here? What?" He just couldn't believe the transformation that we had known is that hidden potential that we'd known was there all along. It was just waiting to be uncovered, and it just needed some tweaking. So seeing that, we want to help, our organization wants to help other people see that vision. So many people just want to start fresh, and I understand that, but that deprives them of the joy of living in an old house and from finding electrical that's been Don-engineered. Or we left a time capsule in our house behind a wall with some things. So if anybody ever wants to renovate my youngest, Hayes' bedroom, there was a little open space that we were able to put a little treasure in for someone to maybe find later down the road. It's not insurmountable. It may be a little bit harder, but it's the rewards that you get after you pour so much of yourself into a house that someone else has poured themselves into, that someone before that has poured themselves into. You just reap the benefits of generations of people who have loved that house. How many times has that door swung open for Christmas or Thanksgiving? How many newborns have been brought in the door from the hospital? You just can't replicate that. Evan and I had a philosophy when we were renovating that we didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that we didn't want to just leave the shell of the house with everything new and updated inside because it just wouldn't have the same feel. My house was not built with the same quality of workmanship as the house that I grew up in, but it's a great house. It's a great family home. It's the perfect size. I can see why the Edneys lived there for close to 50 years because it's a great house to raise a family in, but it's also a great house for empty nesters. Our organization and our community, we're in this for the long haul. We want to provide a platform for people who come after us, who come after our kids. We've got the long game in mind here. And that's why we bristle and we get offended when people just come in and play the short game with our neighborhood. Because the legacy that we want to leave is something bigger and something greater than just turning around for a quick profit. So in 2019, a very important Hal Thompson house was slated for demolition. And that was another time that the community was pretty outraged about it. And there's a particular influencer, her name is Christina Dandar, and she is the person behind the potted boxwood. On her Instagram account, I noticed that she was saying, Preservation Park Cities, where are you? And so I reached out to her directly. And since then, she has become a member of our board. She was the moderator at our Distinguished Speaker Luncheon. And she has completely taken over our social media platform. So we went from 250 followers to now over 7,000 in the course of just a few short years. She is able to make us relevant in that way, in a way that we had not really engaged in before. And we're able to use that platform to educate both our community members and people who live all across the country.